Today we're going to look at our properties of exponents by just tying them all together. So first of all, we're just going to do a quick review of all the properties we've learned. So this whole top area here is all ones we should already know how to do. So a 3x squared plus a 2x squared, we know when we add, we keep the exponents the same and gives us a 5x squared. A 9c minus a 2c gives us a 7c, right? The exponent stays the same. When we have a power to a power, right, I need to take 3 to the third power, which will give me 27, and then I need to multiply the exponents, so 2 times 3 will give me r to the 6th. When we multiply with exponents, we add them, so 3 plus 5 gives me 8. Right, my next one is just more complex multiplication. So I'm taking negative 3 times 2, which is negative 6, negative 6 times 4, which is a negative 24. Then I'm going to take my a's. When I multiply, I add the exponents, gives me a to the 4th. And then I'm going to put my b's together. So a 1 plus a 4 gives me b to the 5th. We know that anything to the 0 power is 1, so x to the 0 power is 1. When we divide, we subtract. So 2 minus 7 gives us a negative 5, and a negative 5 tells us to write it on the denominator of the fraction. All right, on our next one, we want to reduce 3 over 9. So we know 3 over 9 will reduce to 1 over 3, and then we're going to subtract the exponents. 4 minus 2 is positive 2. Positive goes in the numerator. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. When it's negative, it goes on the denominator. All right, a negative exponent tells us to move the base and the exponent to the other side. So the 5 stays put because it's not the base or the exponent, so we get 5 over n squared. Okay. On our next one, we're going to reduce 4 divided by 2 is 2, or 2 over 1, and then we subtract. Negative 3 minus 2 gives us a negative 5. A negative exponent goes on the denominator. Okay, 4x to the 0 power. The x to the 0 power is 1, but the 4 is still there, so 4 times 1 gives us 4. Okay, and then on our next one, we have negative exponents. Negative exponents tell us to move it to the other side of the fraction, so that r is coming down, and that k is going up. Now, we want to make sure we know these properties very solid because we want to start to combine them together. So for example, if we look at something like one, this is already one we've kind of seen before, right? We just have some more complex pieces going on. So we know when we divide, okay, we have to reduce the coefficients. So 4 divided by 8 is 1/2. Now, we have a couple choices. This isn't a right or wrong answer. We just know the x's couldn't go together. So one option is to straightforward subtract. Negative 2 minus negative 3. Negative 2 minus negative 3 gives me a positive 1. Okay, so I'm going to put x to the first in the top. Now, another option might be that you look at this and say, well, I see negative exponents, so I need to change the location that they're in, and then subtract. That would be completely acceptable as well. Right? Then we'll take a look at the y's. 7 minus 5 gives us 2. That is a positive 2, so I'm going to write that in the numerator. Okay, in our next example, we have multiplication happening in the top of the fraction, and then we have division. I always suggest to my students that if there is an operation, you simplify the numerator and or the denominator first, and then deal with the division. Okay, so we're going to focus on this numerator first and doing this operation. So 3 times 5 gives me 15. And when I multiply, I add the exponents. After I finish that, then I'm going to worry about this division. So 15 over 2, I cannot simplify 15 over 2 any further, but I can subtract my exponents. 9 minus 5 is positive 4. And so my final answer will be 15x to the 4th all over 2. And when I look at my next one, I have a couple operations going on. I have a power to a power, and then I have them being multiplied. So our order of operations still apply here. I still need to deal with parentheses first because that is what order of operations tell me I need to do. So I need to deal with this parenthesis by passing out that exponent. So 3 to the 3rd power is 27. X squared to the third power is going to be x to the sixth because we multiply exponents. And y to the third power will be y to the third power. Okay, now I'm going to deal with this one over here. So be very careful. Negative 2 squared, right, is negative 2 times negative 2, which gives us positive 4. If you are typing that into a calculator, that negative 2 has to be in parentheses, right? Then I'm going to take my x squared and my y squared. Now I'm going to deal with the multiplication. So when I'm dealing with that multiplication says to add the exponent. So I'm first going to take 27 times 4, which will give me a 108, right? Then I'm going to add the exponent. 6 plus 2 gives me 8, and 3 plus 2 gives me 5. So my final answer will be 108, x to the 8th, y to the 5th. Okay, our next one has a negative exponent and a power to a power. I always suggest, though it is not necessarily the right answer, that if there is a negative exponent on the outside here, I deal with that first. So I take this and put this as 1 over, and then I take 2a to the 4th b squared. And now because it's in the right location, I don't need this 2 to be negative anymore. Okay, and then I'll deal with this power to a power. So I still have that 1 in the numerator, but I need 2 squared, which is 4. And I'm going to multiply exponents. 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, on my next one, I have division and a power of 0. Great news, exponent of 0 makes that all 1. Just keep in mind that 5 is not receiving the exponent of 0, so that just stays as 1/5. Okay, then our last one, goes back to my suggestion. If there's an operation in the numerator or the denominator, I always suggest you take care of that first. So 6 plus 5 gives me 11x squared over 2x squared. All right, then I'm going to deal with the division. I can't do anything with the 11 over 2. That doesn't simplify any further. Now when I subtract my exponents, 2 minus 2 is 0. So I get x to the 0 power. But I know that x to the 0 power is just like multiplying times 1, so I don't even need to write that down. So my final answer is just 11 over 2.